Why do people go on ADHD forums? Why do people go on neurodivergent and autism forums? A lot of the time it's to get answers, but it's also to get support. And I've pondered how good these forums are. Now, from the point of view of getting information from other people, they're fantastic. You can really get a great understanding of who you are from reading that, from understanding how other people see the world, from realizing that we're not alone in this. There's others like us, and they've had the same struggles growing up that a lot of us have had, and the same lack of understanding that we've experienced. They've had the same issues in the workplace, they've had the same issues at school growing up. And these are people who we can rely on for our support. But there is a little bit of a worry that I have in reading a lot of the comments. And there's what I'd call buzzwords, for the want of a better word. Now, some people will absolutely slaughter me for saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway because I'm like that. And those buzzwords are trauma, broken, and childhood trauma. So there's three words there which people hang up on. And the more I read some of the comments, I have to think of the motivation between the people using them. And it does strike me that there is an element of people almost trying to outdo each other with how much they've suffered and how much it's affecting their life. And I think once you have that mindset, it's an extremely dangerous place to be. So what I found, 23 years in the police, I came across a lot of homeless people. Now, it is a fact that a lot of homeless people are mentally ill, about 70% from memory. Interestingly, a similar percentage of people with neurodiversity in prisons, very, very high. But I digress on that. The problem is with mental health, it is something that we do need to address. And the very worst way of doing that is by finding other people like us and getting into an echo chamber where we magnify our trauma and we justify it and we start to use it as an excuse. And I've been there, I have done that at times. Well, it's not my fault because of this and because of that and because of the other. But here's the thing, whose fault is it? Ultimately, if we don't take any action beyond going into chat rooms and finding out people are like us, if we don't take any action, who's the person that it affects? Us. And getting back to homeless people, almost every one of them had exhausted all help and support from family and friends, and they'd ended up alienating them all for a single reason. They were focused only on themselves. Now, how do we break out of that? I'm not going to say stop going into chat rooms, stop going into forums and discussing your issues, because it can be very cathartic, it can be very therapeutic, and there is absolutely a place for it. But we have to recognise the dangers that lie therein. And that is becoming increasingly focused on ourselves. So one of the best ways we can get out of that is seeking help, outside help, and that's counselling. Outside of these forums, don't look at other people in a similar position to be able to counsel you effectively, because they can't. And the reason they can't is invariably they're focused on themselves, just as you're focused on yourself. Now, I've been in that position. I understand what it's like to be so intrinsically focused that everything else goes by the wayside, that I blame the whole world. I'm bitter at my employers. I'm bitter at my teachers. I'm bitter about the way the world has treated me, and it's not my fault. And that's fine, but how did that help me? It didn't. I was just angry at everything and everyone. And I saw somebody write in relation to ADHD. ADHD is 110% effort with 50% of the achievement of others. And that, again, is part of the problem. And when you've had negative feedback for so much in your life, it does create trauma. It does create this feeling of being alienated, and it does create this feeling of being very different. So there is a tendency to shut ourselves off, and again, we go back to the forum and we find others like us. So how do we get out of that? Counselling helps. And I say that from somebody who's had counselling more than once for various issues, which I won't go into, at least not today. And every counselling session I have ever had does the same thing. It gets me to think about my issues in relation to other people. So what's going on for other people? What's the bigger picture? How does my behaviour affect those around me? And like I said, when you're very angry, when you're very bitter, you can be very negative towards people. So they will view you negatively. They will think, oh my God, it's him again. And we really don't want to be like that. Now, it does seem unfair sometimes. Like, why have I got to be the one to make the change? Easy. Because you're the one that'll get the benefit from it. And, surprisingly enough, so will those around you. If you reframe things, yes, it's harder. With ADHD, life is harder. But we have to be the change makers. And that might seem unfair, but you know what? Everybody has problems. Everybody has their own issues that they have to deal with, and we are no different in that respect. So it's about reframing things, and it's about viewing the advice and that in the forums with a different lens, saying, okay, that's in relation to them. How are other people affected by that? How can I start focusing on others and remove the focus from myself? Because all the time I'm focused on myself, all I'm thinking about is how bitter and angry I am at the trauma, and that's not helping me heal. That's not helping me move forward. What helps me move forward is when I try to help other people, which is why I've spent so much of my life doing just that. All my careers have been about helping others. And yeah, I've had ups and downs along the way, but by and large, when I look back, I achieved a lot of what I wanted to do. And I've got a far better understanding of myself as a person because I can view myself through other people's eyes. And accepting feedback from others is hard initially, but once you get used to being comfortable with being uncomfortable, it's a lot easier. So just to wrap this up, I would say trauma and being broken are negative terms that we should try and move away from. That's in the past. How are we going to move forward? And it's about shifting our focus on other people, how we affect them, how we can help them, and how we can help others in a similar situation to ourselves. I hope that helps.